we continue to hold in our thoughts and prayers the wider world and pray for peace and hope in the midst of the ongoing conflict in our world. O God of all hope and peace, we bring to you the needs of our broken and hurting world. We pray for an end to violence and warfare, so that the challenging work of rebuilding may begin. Help us, O Lord, to affirm our common humanity, so that in our differences we may build together for justice and peace. And as we have prayed for peace for our world, we pray for peace for ourselves, our homes, our families, our colleagues. Heavenly Father, thank you for every seat that has been filled here tonight. We hold before God all who serve their communities and give thanks for their commitment. Help us to work together so that truth and justice, harmony and fairness flourish among us. Bless this meeting tonight, all those present, as well as the lives of those we will encounter afterwards. Amen.
Thank you, everyone. Sit down. Got the wrong. Agenda item 1 is apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies have been received from Councillors Hawkins and Hope.
Thank you.
And Councillor Bennion.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Councillor Wilcox and Councillor Ball. Councillor Wilcox first.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Report of Leader of the Council, Cabinet decisions, Disabled Facilities Grant Framework. Any reference to the Better Care Fund that held in Staffordshire, it's within my portfolio as Cabinet Member for Health and Care.
Thank you. And Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Chair. I think I need to declare an interest in item 18 on the agenda on the Leisure Centre, as that's in my ward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Robertson.
Similar declaration, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I also have to declare an interest in agenda item 3, and I've been advised that I need to vacate the chair and indeed the room for that item. So excuse me.
Soft. So agenda item 3, election of chair of council for the ensuing year. Can I ask for nominations? Councillor Woodward.
Thanks, Vice Chair. Can I move Councillor Anne Hughes as chair for the ensuing year? It doesn't seem very long since I nominated her previously, and she's only been a chair of this council for a short period, hence the re-nomination. I don't think I need to convince you any longer that she's competent and conscientious, and also very objective and balanced in the way she chairs our meetings. You've all seen that now. I don't think I need to remind you either of her background, you know, as a professor of early modern history, her work in the community, her work on Rosie's plaques, for example, that you see dotted around the city, and the fact that she was an expert witness on Gerard Winstanley on Radio 4's Great Lives programme, and you can still find that on Sounds. Don't need to remind you of all that, so I won't. But I just want to remind you that she doesn't wear her role as chair heavily, and she does so with such good grace and without any self-regard. She's balanced, she's objective, she's humorous and often self-deprecating. So I move Councillor Anne Hughes as chair of this council for the ensuing year. Thanks, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Woodward. And do we have a seconder?
Thank you, Vice Chair. I think the longer I talk, the longer it is till we get upstairs and get some nibbles. So I'll formally second that.
Thank you. And do we have any other nominations? No. All those in favour? Any against? Abstentions? That's Councillor Hughes as chair for the ensuing year.
Well, thank you very much indeed. I think I have now got to read a declaration of acceptance of office. So I, Anne Laura Hughes, having been elected to the office of Chair of the Lichfield District Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. And I undertake to be guided by the Lichfield District Council Members' Code of Conduct in the performance of the functions in that office. This version is dated the 12th of December 2003, but there's been a lot going on, so it hasn't been updated, but I take it I'll sign it anyway. And I should just say I am very conscious of your kindness in trusting me for another whole council year. I promise I won't try again, but I do welcome the opportunity to perhaps make a bit more of the role than I have had time to do so far. So that's all I want to say, really. We don't have to vote any thanks to an outgoing chair, but you can do that next year if I last the year. And we can move to agenda item 4, minutes of the last meeting. Can I move that the minutes of the previous the last meeting, 16th of April 2024, be approved as a correct record?
Chair.
There's a couple of raised hands about, I've seen Councillor Ball, then Councillor Cross.
Yes, Chair, it's a typo that I've noticed at the bottom of page 4, item 90, minutes of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. There's a sentence on the second last paragraph which doesn't make sense. It simply says Councillor Woodward, Councillor Leong's role on the board. And I think that sort of repeat of what I said at the Overview and Scrutiny Committee itself, and Councillor Woodward took this up at the full council, that Councillor Woodward congratulated and thanked Councillor Leong for the wonderful way she's carried out her role on the Health and Care Board at Staffordshire County Council.
Thank you. We can correct that. Thank you. And I think Councillor Cross also had a point, and then Councillor Whitehouse, and then.
Thank you, Chair. Page 11 and 12. We've got Councillor Mears listed as a yes, and she's also listed as a no. She's listed twice.
Can we correct that in consultation with Councillor Mears? Thank you. Councillor Whitehouse, I think, was next.
In the absence of Councillor Ho, it's just the spelling of his name as absent.
Have you got a page number or throughout? Yeah, I suppose we can.
It's in the apologies.
Oh, right. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. And then Councillor Robertson had something.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just on page 5 in the minutes of the minutes of the Employment Committee, but I'm looking at the wrong part of it. Wherever the minutes of the Employment Committee are, it does say that I mentioned and spoke about how valuable it was for us to be a living wage employer. I think one of the important points that I raised that isn't included in the minutes is the fact that we are the first council of our type in this region to have achieved that accreditation. And I think that is worth celebrating. I said it at the time, and I think it would be an omission to not include it in the minutes to record that we are ahead of the curve on that.
Is that okay? Right, why not? Yeah, okay. So I see no more raised hands. So can I take the minutes as approved, subject to the amendments that we've heard? Thank you. Right, agenda item 5 then is election of vice chair of the council for the ensuing year. And we're advised that no one needs to leave the room during this. Can I have a nomination or nominations for vice chair? Councillor Pullen.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to nominate Councillor Richard Holland as vice chair for the ensuing year. Councillor Holland came to this local authority with quite an interesting background, having been national president of the Round Table, having visited 92 football grounds in the Premier League and the league in 92 hours, raising money for Birmingham Children's Hospital, and also being a local business owner as well. I think Richard has absolutely excelled in the role over the last year, and I think many of us across this chamber would welcome him to continue in that role for the ensuing year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for Councillor Holland? Councillor Powell.
Yes, Chair. I second Councillor Holland and reserve the right to speak later for him. Thank you.
Thank you. So Councillor Holland has been duly proposed and seconded. Do we have any other nominations? No, that's great. Do we then, well, I can declare Councillor Richard Holland. Oh, well, sorry, can we take a vote on that? Sorry. Just declare, right, yeah, I can declare, yeah. No, can we, all those in favour? Abstentions? Or people, well, I'm assuming abstentions, yeah, as you didn't nominate anybody. Sorry, yeah. So without opposition anyway, so congratulations to Councillor Holland. So, yeah, we have a declaration of office and yeah, I do. Well, I think that's the form.
I, Richard Holland, having been elected to the office of Vice Chair of the Lichfield District Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to be guided by the Lichfield District Council Members Code of Conduct in the performance of my functions in that office, dated this 12th day of December 2023.
Thank you. So we don't need to thank any outgoing vice chair, but we can congratulate Councillor Holland on his re-election. Thank you. We look forward to working together this year. Yeah, thank you. Right, we go to agenda item number 6, which is Chairman's announcements. There's things that one decides at the start of the year. The first one is the chaplain. I will perhaps take some time. I'm very grateful to Elizabeth Wall for continuing over the whole of the year, and I think she's done a marvellous job. But I'm going to have a little think about the role of the chaplain and what we need to do at the start of the council. But I think we will try and have a civic service. It'll be announced in the near future and details will be forthcoming. And my charity will continue to be MHA Communities, South Staffordshire, which living longer and living well. It's not quite what they are, but that sums them up. And I look forward to actually raising a bit more money than I have already. So thank you. That's all I've got to say, I think, now. Then agenda item 7 is the report of the Leader of the Council on Cabinet member decisions since the last council. So Councillor Pullen.
Thank you, Chair. I'll submit my report on Cabinet decisions from the meeting held on the 7th of April 2024 and Cabinet member decisions for noting. Happy to take questions on those, but taking them item by item. Cabinet decisions 7th of May 2024. Number 1, Disabled Facilities Grant Framework. And I want to just say at this point, I think huge congratulations to all councillors from across this chamber who have lobbied for a number of years for us to make improvements in this regard, and specifically to our officers who have excelled in their delivery of disabled facilities grants, enabling us to take this not just to benefit the lives of residents in Lichfield District, but to make that available to residents across other local authorities as well. We really ought to note that. If there's no questions, number 2, Fleet Procurement Joint Waste Service.
Sorry, that's those disabled facilities or waste procurement. Okay, waste.
It's on the exciting one.
Okay, Councillor Robertson, Councillor Ashton, and then Councillor Braga. Oh, sorry. Okay, Councillor Ashton is on the disabled facilities.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few points to make, and I'll try and be quite brief while I'm making them. I really do applaud the efforts of the leader and the chief executive to decrease spending and increase revenue through the work of LWNTS. I wish you'd chosen a more pronounceable acronym though. But planned and executed well, this is a great initiative that can really raise the national profile of Lichfield District. But first, competence. LWNTS is providing a variety of core services to the council, such as payroll, and by all accounts is doing a very good job on this. But the recent planned diversification of activities by LWNTS is not one I feel we should endorse automatically. I don't want to cast aspersions on the competence of our officers at any level, but I think we're right to question their experience in some of the areas into which LWNTS is expanding, such as software development and marketing, administration of social housing, and I believe the resale of our planning services to other authorities. I fear that with all this rapid expansion, we may well be running before we can walk, and I just wish to sound a note of caution at this time. Let's remember that the actions and administration of LWNTS may well use council resources, either directly or indirectly, and it may reduce the amount of officer time available to provide core services to residents. And on the question of oversight, while I realise the potential for financial gain by the use of LWNTS as a commercial enterprise, I think we should also be aware of the financial risks involved in all these enterprises. By moving certain functions from council to a limited company, some legal obligations are incurred, others may be bypassed. And I'm not accusing anyone of any wrongdoing, and I'm sure that the legal advice we received is perfectly valid, but the potential exists for LWNTS to act in a way which, while legal...
Okay, sorry.
I'm not entirely sure of the relevance to this.
There is a question arising. There is a question coming.
Correct. Go on. Hurry up there.
Okay, I'm just worried that while MWNTS may act in a way which, while legal, might contravene the spirit of good local government for which we stand in this council. Ultimately, it's the council's servant rather than its master. So I'm requesting that a regular and frequent pattern of oversight be put in place. This could take the form of regular reports to every full council, along the lines of committee reports, such as we have now, or these reports might be handled by Oversight and Scrutiny Committee and included in the committee's reports to full council. Can the council please have an assurance that such an oversight mechanism will be implemented? Thank you.
Councillor Pullen, do you want to respond to that first of all?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And thank you, Councillor Ashton, for the question. And some of those points that he raised were discussed at length at the Cabinet meeting where we discussed this, which the overriding objective of Lichfield District Council is to provide good, if not excellent, services to its residents. And over the last 12 months, we have demonstrated that through the use of LWNTS, we have been able to increase both the grant applications in terms of number, in terms of the volume. We've been able to increase the total grant amount that we've been able to give to our residents, and we've been able to speed up quite considerably the time from application through to grant delivery. I think we can all agree that is putting our residents at the heart of what we do. Equally, I think if we're able to make that system available to other residents of other local authorities, we ought to grasp that, but not at the expense of our own residents. And that was a point that was discussed at length at Cabinet. Lichfield District Council is the sole shareholder in LWMTS. We decide what that organisation does from a strategic objective. We've already got governance arrangements in place to ensure that this council does control at a strategic level what LWMTS delivers. However, what we won't do as a council is direct them on an operational level. That is for them to decide what they do. We've already got governance arrangements in place which ensure that there is regular and consistent oversight of the organisation. And I would be pleased to make sure that continues over the coming years. And not only are we able to offer excellent services to our own residents, but residents of other local authorities as well.
Thank you then. Councillor Cross, is this on the same item?
Yes, it is, Chair.
Okay then.
It was interesting listening to this presentation.
You need to...
Sorry, my apologies. It was interesting listening to this gentleman's councillor's presentation here. But I feel Councillor Pullen hasn't answered his question. And I'd like him to answer the last part of his question, please.
Sorry. You want... What was...
I think if the chair has doesn't think that I've answered the question properly, the chair can direct that for me to answer that question. I'm not entirely sure what you're getting at, Councillor Moss.
We'll perhaps move on to the next item and we can discuss it afterwards. Then there were Councillor Robertson, I think, was on the waste.
Thank you, Chair. The waste service is principally responsible for the carbon dioxide emissions of this council. I believe it is the majority of the carbon emissions of this council are caused by the fleet. That's not surprising given that we have a larger fleet because we host a joint service and of the nature of what a district council does. But given that this council declared almost 12 years ago now a climate emergency, I think it is very important that we look at this very carefully and look at this in terms of our aspiration to be as close to net zero as possible at 2035, and certainly on this side of the chamber to be net zero by 2035. Within that, though, within the papers, it does talk about the potential for a 7-year lease of these vehicles with a possible extension for 7 years, where the current lease appears to have been a 6-year lease with a 2-year extension. The question, therefore, must be asked is, has that been deliberately designed to avoid the ban on internal combustion engine vehicles, which was originally planned to come in 2030, and then shamefully abandoned by the Conservative government back in 2035? And do we feel there are adequate provisions within the documentation that which we have before us to ensure that we are not going to be so far behind the curve? Thank you, Chair.
Now, I've got Councillor Braga, Councillor Wilcox and Councillor Ray. Councillor Braga, I think, is a slightly different point. Yes. Yeah, so are either of you talking about the vehicles? Yeah, go on.
Yes, I am. And first of all, just because Councillor Wilcox and I have liaised, and I thank you for the responses you've given. And one of the things that Councillor Wilcox said is that obviously there's reference to the food waste collection and the fact that potentially we might end up with 2 separate vehicles for food waste and non-food waste. And what, just like Councillor Wilcox says, he acknowledged in his correspondence with me, just to keep that under review, because that is obviously additional cost, vehicle and operational cost for the council if there are two collections. But I appreciate there are big issues at play there. And also on the environmental issue of the electric vehicles, I've read the paper and I can understand the reasoning why we're not going down that route at this moment in time. But I'm heartened by the assurance that Councillor Wilcox gave me that HVO, hydro-treated vegetable oil, will be looked at as a serious option for the fuel for the fleet. And I think Councillor Wilcox confirmed to me that he would be bringing a paper forward to Cabinet so that can be taken forward. I'd just like that to be confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Braga.
Yeah, I know that in the District Strategy 2050, which we're going to discuss later, the aim is by 2028 to introduce food waste collections. So I'm pleased to see that in this report we're considering now, it anticipates food waste collections to be introduced April 2026, which is obviously better, with about 12 vehicles, which aren't included in this procurement. So therefore, that brings to mind 3 questions to me. How will these vehicles be paid for? Will it be all central government money, or will the 2 councils be contributing to that? When will the procurement for the food waste vehicles start? And whilst I'm pleased to see in this report that the food waste is earlier than the district strategy, what is stopping food waste collections being introduced sooner? Many households in Lichfield would welcome them as soon as possible. Is it possible to procure the vehicles sooner than the government money becomes available and still claim that funding? If so, why not include them in this procurement process? And it is our children's future we're endangering by not acting as soon as possible.
Councillor Wilcox, did you have something?
Thank you, Chair. So I'll answer them in reverse order if I can. So Councillor Bragger, in relation to food waste. Sorry?
Sorry, I mean, you are.
You want to speak then,
perhaps Councillor
I'll let the
Pullen
lead,
should
yeah,
have-
I'll give way to the leader.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, I think you probably should. Yeah, yeah. Go on, would Councillor Pullen like to respond on the?
Thank you, Chair.
Food
No
waste.
doubt there are elements of detail that I will pass over to Councillor Wilcox in a second. So just taking those questions one by one. So Councillor Robertson, was that purposely designed to avoid the ban on internal combustion engine? No, it was not. Absolutely not. Are we confident that we have got to the right framework set up on that? Well, absolutely we are. We are able to change the vehicles under that contract throughout the period of the contract, but because of the nature of the contract that we're getting set up. So if we did want to shift to electric vehicles later on in that contract, then we're able to do that. And so the 7+7 rather than 6+2 does not preclude that opportunity for us in coming years. But thank you for raising those helpful and pertinent points. Councillor Ray touched on the alternative fuel sources. And I think, yeah, I think that would be a really interesting debate for us to have in this chamber. I think there are multiple ways of us reducing our carbon emissions. I think we would all agree that reducing carbon emissions is a good thing, and we need to get to that point as quickly as we can. The question of how we get there and of how we do that in a fair and equitable way, without increasing costs directly to our residents, but doing it in a thoughtful and considerate way, is really important, particularly when we know that people are struggling at the moment financially. We do need to consider how we do that in a way that is both helpful for the environment, but also helpful for people's finances as well. In terms of our 2050 strategy, which Councillor Bragger touches on, we are legally obliged to hit the date that is discussed in the paper. So the food waste is a legal obligation that we'll have as a local authority. You asked there about why we're not bringing it forward more quickly, and are we able to get the new burdens allowance more quickly, or if we do go ahead. So in terms of the market at the moment, it is obviously a very heated market naturally because of the legislation that's driving so many local authorities to procurement. I think there's a practical reason that we're not bringing it any earlier, which is, whilst we've talked about it at length and are going out doing some soft market testing now and looking at how we bring that forward quickly, I think the reality is that were we to go any earlier, that the market wouldn't be able to respond in time anyway. They've got every local authority, well, virtually every local authority up and down the country coming to them for it. But we will have the new burdens funding from central government to fund the capital purchase of those vehicles. If we did bring it earlier, then we would still be able to access the new burdens funding when it arrives, but clearly we'd have to fund the gap between when we initiated it and when that actually became a technical burden rather than just our own choice. I think I've answered every question there, but if I haven't, and if it's a detailed one, then ask Councillor Wilcox.
Right, then there's a couple of other items, aren't there? Arkle Farm and Bore Street, just for noting, I guess.
Yes, quite right, Chair. As you said, you got it. Would say.
Councillor Ashton.
This is a lot quicker. I know that LWMTS will be managing the facilities for these homeless people. Am I correct in thinking that Spring will still be providing the support services for the inhabitants of 36 Bore Street?
Thank you, Councillor Ashton. We've got a very successful track record of working with Spring Housing, one of the very few district councils in the country to have such a successful housing first approach, which provides such high quality of wraparound care to those who present as homeless to Lichfield District. And I'm glad to say that we'll be continuing that relationship with them.
Right. Thank you very much. We move on then to agenda item number 8, which is the minutes of the Planning Committee from the 8th of April. I call on Councillor Marshall.
Thank you very much, Chair. I move that the proceedings of the Planning Committee meeting held on the 8th of April 2024 be received and, where necessary, approved and adopted.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Yeah, Councillor Chetklin.
Chair, I'm happy to second.
Thank you. Take the minutes page by page. Page 17 on the general agenda was Blackbrook Hall. That was it, wasn't it? Yeah. Any questions or comments? No? Great. So can we take these minutes as received and adopted? Thank you very much. Then we move on then to minutes of the Audit Committee. And it's Councillor Whitehouse. So I think Councillor Ho is absent today, but he was also absent at that meeting, I think. So call on Councillor Whitehouse.
Thank you, Chair. I move that the proceedings of the Audit Committee meeting held on the 17th of April 2024 be received and, where necessary, approved and adopted.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for someone who's at the meeting? Councillor Vernon. Yeah, Councillor Taylor.
Chair, I'm happy to second that motion.
Lovely. Thank you, Councillor Vernon. Then. And then, so let's take these by minute number. So there's accounting policies and estimation uncertainty. Audit Committee effectiveness, and the chair's 57 is the annual report to council, which is actually the next item on the agenda. Item 58. 59, risk management update. 60, annual governance statement. 61, data protection. And 62, progress report. Then the work programme, and that's about it. And are there any questions or points people want to make on the Audit Committee? No? Can I take these minutes then as received and adopted? Right. There's item 10 is the report of the chair of the Audit Committee. I don't know if Councillor Whitehouse is able to say anything about this. I think you just need to submit it.
Thank you, Chair. The report of the chair of the Audit Committee in the chair's absence, I commend this report and submit the report, and happy to take any questions.
Right. Are there any? Right, Councillor Mears, there's a question.
Good evening, Chair. I applaud the hybrid working approach, but I can speak from my own experience that it's proven very difficult to get face-to-face meeting with officers. I'd like there to be some way to address this going forwards, because I'm sure I'm not the only one. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you. And I think The answer to that, Councillor Mears, is that it was highlighted and discussed at various meetings. And I think the audit manager is working on doing exactly that. And with the audit committee going forward, we have committed that we will spend more time with the audit manager where we feel that we can help and get things done quicker for him.
Is there anything else on the report from the chair of the audit committee? Okay, I think we thank you and Councillor Ho for it and regard it as submitted. We move to agenda item 11, which is the membership of cabinet committees, panels and other appointments by political groups. And I call on Councillor Pullen to move this. It's full details are on page 33.
Thank you, Chair. 3 parts to this. I move that the political allocation of seats on committees and panels are approved, that the appointments to cabinet be noted and the appointments to committees and panels be approved, and that the constitution be amended to reflect the changes made. And just at this point, Chair, can I just highlight one of the key changes, which is going to be under item B, appointments to cabinet. Really pleased that Councillor Phil Whitehouse will be joining me on cabinet. I think Councillor Whitehouse has done an absolutely sterling job since joining this local authority 12 months ago, and clearly got a really strong grasp on his brief as Vice Chair of Audit, as you've just seen, and I think he'll be an absolute wonderful addition to cabinet. I'm sure he looks forward to being shadowed ably by the Labour Party, and I'm sure that his experience and skills will actually add a great deal for this local authority, and I'm pleased to welcome him to the cabinet.
Right,
Thank you, Chair.
I've got Councillor Woodward first and then Councillor Mears.
Thanks, Chair. I'm happy to second Councillor Pullen's proposals, and in doing so, can I also congratulate Councillor Whitehouse on, is it his elevation to the Cabinet or is it a demotion from Overview and Scrutiny Committee? I've certainly welcomed working alongside Councillor Whitehouse at Overview and Scrutiny, and I think Cabinet's gain is Overview and Scrutiny's loss, but I second the proposals as put forward by Councillor Pullen. Thanks.
Councillor Mears. So it's been...
Thank you. Good evening. With the selection of councillors for the different committees, I'd like that to be done committee by committee rather than as a block selection. I'd like to make that a proposal.
I don't... Yeah, as I understand it, appointments to committees are done by group leaders, and I think it's being proposed as a sort of block today. So I think that's what I'm advised. So I think we have to vote as the overall proposal here. And sorry, Councillor Robertson.
Just to confirm, Chair, I think the individual councillors being assigned to committees is agenda item 12, currently dealing with agenda item 11, which is the overall shape of the committee.
So, okay. Right, okay, right. Right, so can we then, we're voting on, we're voting on the names as well, aren't we? Yes, we are, yeah. I've got confused by Councillor Robertson. No, don't,
sorry.
Don't unconfuse
Point
me.
of order, Chair.
Yeah?
Surely we can't move on to agenda item 12 before we dispose of agenda item 11, and that would require a vote.
No, this is, the membership is part of item 11, is just what I'm saying. Right, anyway, we're voting on item 11, which I think has the political balance and then has the members. So all those in favour of that motion? And against? Abstentions? Yeah, thank you. Right, I think that's right. And then agenda item 12 is elections of chairs and appointment of vice chairs of committees, panels, etc. So first of all, it's Chair of Overview and Scrutiny is taken second. I call on the Leader of the Council to move a proposal for chairs and vice chairs of committees.
Thank you, Chair. I move that the chairs and vice chairs of committees and panels be as submitted.
Thank you. Can I call on Councillor Woodward? Oh, sorry, could I ask for a seconder for... No, Councillor Farrell is going to second it, I think.
Yeah, happy to second and reserve the
Okay,
right.
so that the names as on the agenda, page 39, has been moved and seconded. I call on Councillor Woodward, who I think wants to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to propose an amendment to that list, and I believe the officers have a copy of the amendment to circulate.
I haven't got a copy at all. Yeah, but there's an evil plot. Right, okay, has everyone got, apart from, we don't have sight of it up here, but we'll take your word for it. But
gosh,
there you go. No, we can share, but I do know.
She's going to read it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, right, I think if everyone's got sight of it, I think Councillor Woodward is proposing an amended list.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. This amendment replaces a number of positions as proposed by the Leader of Council as chairs and vice chairs of committees. And I was thinking just this afternoon, for the past 25 years, I've looked for the opportunity for Labour oppositions at this council to be able to nominate chairs and vice chairs. And this is the first time during that 25 years that this may come to fruition. A slight change to what I'd originally proposed in the paper that's been circulated, but I'm going to propose that the Chair of Audit Committee is Councillor Paul Taylor. The Chair of Member Standards Committee is Councillor John Smith. The Chair of Planning Committee is Councillor Rosie Harvey-Coggins, and the Vice Chair of the Planning Committee is Councillor Hugh Ashton. That the Chair of Regulatory and Licensing Committee is Councillor Diane Evans. That the Chair of Employment Committee is Councillor Sharon Benevicius, and the slight addition that the Vice Chair of Employment Committee is Councillor Serena Mears. And I hope that my deputy will second those proposals. Thanks.
Do we have a seconder for that amendment?
Thank you, Chair. I'll second those, and should it be needed, I will reserve my right to speak until the end of the debate.
Okay. So then we vote first on the amendment. Or does want any discussion? Is there discussion? Anyone want to say? Okay. Can we then go to a vote on the amendment, which is circulated, I think, to everybody, with the addition of Councillor Mears as Vice Chair of Employment? All those in favour? Those against? Yeah, that amendment is carried. So we vote on this. Sorry?
Chair, just a point of information. Can we have the number of votes, please?
And Councillor Pullen.
Thank you, Chair. Just before we move to the vote on the substantive motion, then can I make some amendments of our own to that original and substantive motion? And that is that Brian Yates be Vice Chair of Regulatory and Licensing, that Councillor Whaley Ho be the Vice Chair of Audit, that Councillor Sonia Wilcox be the Vice Chair of Employment, that Councillor John Hill be the Vice Chair of Member Standards.
We have a Vice Chair of Employment though.
We do, and I'm proposing an amendment. to
Okay,
that.
right, fair enough. Right.
Councillor Wilcox.
Okay,
Sonia Wilcox. Yeah. Thank you, Chair.
right. Shall I, so I'll read that out and so we've got an amendment to the motion as amended. Shall I read out what I understand the whole thing to be? Yeah, okay. So in the order, it's not the same order that Councillor Woodward proposed it, but the planning committee, the chair would be Councillor Harvey Coggins and the vice chair would be Councillor Ashton. Regulatory and licensing, the chair would be Councillor Evans and the vice chair would be Councillor Yates. The audit committee, the chair would be Councillor Paul Taylor and the vice chair would be Councillor Ho. The members' standards committee, did you want a change to that, to the vice chair? Sorry, I'm helping.
Sorry, Chair. I was otherwise engaged. Could you repeat that question?
Well, currently the chair of members, the motion with your amendment would be members' standard committee would be Councillor John Smith. Would the vice chair be Councillor Hill? Or Councillor?
That's correct.
Okay,
That's correct. Thank
I
you, Chair.
didn't make a note of that. That's probably right. Then the employment committee, the chair is Councillor Vanivicius, but the vice chair amended would not be Councillor Mears, would be Councillor Sonia Wilcox.
That's correct, Chair.
I think, is that clear? That's what we're voting on with this amendment. So all those, basically the vice chairs where there's a vacancy have been, the chairs have been moved to vice chairs where there's a vacancy and there's a different proposal for the vice chair of employment. Is that clear? Good. So all those in favour of Councillor, there was a seconder, wasn't there, I'm sure. Yeah, Councillor Pullen and Councillor Farrell's amendment to the amended motion. All those in favour? What? All those against? Very good. Abstentions? Okay, so that I think is the list. Shall we? Oh, sorry, yeah, that becomes the substantive motion. We need to vote on the substantive motion then. So all those in favour on the list of chairs and vice chairs which has had 2 amendments. Do you want me to have another go at reading them out? No, okay. Let's just vote then and hope for the best. All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Right. Then sorry, Councillor Salter.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a little bit confused. Who has actually got the vice chairmanship of Employment Committee? Because we seem to have carried the vote.
Councillor Sonia Wilcox.
It is Sonia.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. That's right, isn't it? Right. Okay, and then the item B for item 12B is I'm going to ask for nominations for the chair of overview and scrutiny. Councillor Woodward.
Thanks, Chair. Can I nominate Councillor Steve Norman as the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny? I think everyone will acknowledge, and I see it more than most, just how conscientious he is in terms of research into the background to all of the issues that come before O&S, and I hope members will continue to give him their support too.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for Chair of Councillor Wilcox?
Thank you, Chair. I'm absolutely delighted to second Councillor Steve Norman as Chair of Overview and Scrutiny, a role I held myself for many years. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? No? All those in favour? You can vote for yourself, Councillor Norman. It's not vulgar. Oh, yeah, well, yeah. You could say so. Right, so that's, I think, more or less, is that unanimous? Councillor Norman, you want to?
It's only brief to thank people for the vote, and also to thank Phil Whitehouse's contribution on scrutiny, where he was asking more questions than Colin Ball was asking. Inside joke there for the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and I'm grateful for his help there. But I'd also like to welcome back Councillor John Hill. I missed him when he left, and anyway, so I'm glad to see he's back. And welcome for the first time, Jamie Checkland on scrutiny. I hope they find it enjoyable and not to be afraid to ask questions and challenge me all the time. That'd be great. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We can move on then to agenda item 13, the appointment of representatives on outside bodies. Again, we have a list on page 41, my version anyway. And can I call on Councillor Pullen to move that these appointments be approved?
Yes, Chair, thank you. I move that the appointments of representatives on outside bodies as submitted be approved.
Do we have a seconder for the motion? Anyone seconding that? Councillor Farrell? And
happy to second.
Yeah. And then I could count on Councillor Woodward, who may have an amendment.
I have, Chair. I have just one amendment, and that's in relation to the Police and Crime Panel. We've recently gone through the Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner elections, and the result was to re-elect the incumbent, though he seems to have failed to acknowledge that this was with a 26% swing against his vote last time. So I'd like to propose two Labour members to act as the representatives on the Police and Crime Panel and as the substitute. Can I propose that Councillor Dave Robertson is our representative on the Police, Fire and Crime Panel, and that Councillor Paul Taylor acts as the substitute? I think in the past, and having looked at Police and Crime Panel videos for a period in advance of the elections, there's been a failure really to hold the PFCC's feet to the fire and to challenge him as much as possible. And I trust that, that the representatives that I'm nominating will certainly scrutinise and challenge in a way that hasn't been the case previously. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Ennis?
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor D. Ennis. Councillor Pullen?
Thank you, Chair. As my dad would always tell me when I'm younger, coming second is first last. Coming second, there was a swing for the Police and Crime Commissioner, understandably, but Councillor Cox has done a fantastic job over the years holding our Police and Crime Commissioner to account. I know just being of the same party doesn't mean that you're not able to scrutinise that party. Councillor Norman does a fantastic job as Overview and Scrutiny Chair and independent, and I think he does a fantastic job. Equally, I know that Councillor Cox acts independently mindedly, and just because he might be of the same party doesn't mean that he and Ben don't have disagreements, and he's fully able to hold him to account. I think it'd be a shame, Chair, if both main nominee and substitute were to come from one party. I'm surprised that our friends at the back, Liberal Democrats, have not been able to put one of their own forward for this important role, but I'd be very keen to see Councillor Cox and Councillor Checkland continue in their roles, holding this very important position to account in our county.
Thank you. I think we need to vote on the amendment. Oh, sorry, councillor Cox.
Chairman, obviously, if the vote is that I'm no longer the representative of this council, I find it very disappointing, but obviously because I felt that certainly I put my whole heart into it. I think the composition of the panel considerably changed at last May's elections, and for note, there was very little contribution from Labour members or Green members representing those authorities, because we were only left with 4 as it was, if we're going to play politics.
Thank you. Anybody else? I think we need, sorry, councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Chair. I think while we're discussing this item, I think we need to come back to, I think we need to remember the purpose of this role, and the purpose of this role is to make sure that these services are serving the needs of our community. It can have escaped nobody that Staffordshire Police is in special measures currently because of some of the difficulties that it has faced. Now, whilst they can't entirely be laid at the feet of the Commissioner, there are a variety of other issues, not least central government, that are responsible for that. We cannot escape that fact. We cannot escape that since 2018 and the election of the current Commissioner, this county has lost 50% of its retained firefighters. That is half. That is in the published figures that have come from central government. It cannot be escaped that at times this weekend, the hottest weekend of the year, there was only 1 fully staffed fire engine anywhere in this district. These services are staffed by excellent people. They are supported by excellent chief officers, but every single person who we represent, and it's the residents of this district who we represent here, deserve to have that opportunity to have somebody to be in there and challenge where it's appropriate. I'm not saying in any way that any of the members of that panel have failed to challenge that, but given where we are and given where we are with those services, I do feel that change is necessary because of where we find ourselves in the delivery of those services. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else? Shall we move to a vote then? We're voting on the amendment to replace Councillor Cox and Councillor Strachan as the alternate with. Sorry? Okay, vote on the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment? Okay, those against? The amendment is carried. Can we then vote on the representatives on outside bodies with the amended police and crime panel? All those in favour of the substantive motion as amended, please. Those against? No, you can. Right, and abstentions? Yeah, okay. Just checking they've got the number. You're right. You're right.
Yes,
Yeah, we've okay. We're right there. Do we want to know the numbers? The abstentions, I think. I'm not sure. Eight, 19. 19. Yeah. So it's what? So it was how many in favour? It's 25 in favour, nobody against, 19 abstentions. Okay. Yeah, okay, and 44 people here, so it's fine. So we move on then to, sorry. Well, if I miss something out, I need to be told. No, you just. Okay, so I need. Yeah, go on. Yeah, sorry.
Apologies, Chair. I should have said at the beginning of the meeting, I'd like to declare an interest in the next item. I am a director on the Council's wholly owned company, LWNTS. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Farrell, for the same reason.
Yeah, apologies, Chair. I should have declared it earlier as well. Same reason. Thank you.
Nobody, right. Okay, then, so that's fine then. Item number 14 is delivering temporary accommodation for vulnerable residents. So can I call on Councillor Pullen to speak on this item?
Thank you, Chair. It's always nice to know who's read the papers before the meeting. Chair, this item, I'm really pleased to bring this to council this evening. We, as an organisation, hold around £1.8 million currently, and in fact at any one time, in commuted sums and from right to buy receipts. That money is ring-fenced for reinvesting back into our housing stock, and has not really been working for us for a number of years now. We, at the same time, also have several hundred families and individuals each year who present to the council as homeless, and who many times we are forced to find temporary accommodation outside of the district. Frequently that's in bed and breakfast, frequently that's not in suitable accommodation, particularly for families, and particularly if you've got school-aged children, you're then having to commute back into the district each day to attend school. And I think we can all agree it's not an ideal situation. I should have also added there, and this will be the most left-wing comment I ever make in this chamber, I promise you, but that money finds its way into the private sector as well, when we actually could be retaining that as a local authority. So, moving swiftly on. What this paper seeks to do, Chair, is to put that £1.8 million to work to acquire our own properties, range of properties suitable for both individuals and families across the district, so that when individuals and families do present to us as homeless, rather than having to house them in bed and breakfasts, either on the fringes or even outside of the district, we're able to put them in far more appropriate accommodation for their family circumstances or for their geographical needs as well. I think we can all agree this is making good use of the money that we have, which is not only working for us as an organisation to keep the money circulating within a local authority, but also delivers better outcomes for our residents. And I'm really pleased that we're able to bring it to this council this evening, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for this item? Councillor Cox. Yeah.
I formally second.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments, or Councillor Ball?
Thank you, Chair. No one in this chamber will be surprised to hear that I completely commend and support this proposal. Indeed, since I was elected in the by-election in July 2019, I've been pushing this council to do this very same thing. And I think it's only because we had a change in the makeup of the council last May that this is actually happening. I don't think this would have happened if we were still 4 or 10 councillors on this side of the chamber. Some may object to that, but on the other side of the chamber, but that's certainly my view, and that's what it feels like to me. What I look forward to now is an increase in this, and see some general needs housing increased across the district, that we really push hard on this to get genuinely affordable housing, good quality homes, directly managed by this council, albeit through LWMTS, making life much better for the folk in this district. It's something that's been a long time coming, and it really needs to come more vigorously, more urgently, not just for the directly homeless folk, but for all the folk on our housing waiting list who are languishing in overcrowded homes, in poor quality homes, who need a decent home at a genuinely affordable rent. and it's about time we push this forward more vigorously. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Councillor Farrell and then Councillor Strachan wanted to.
Thank you, Chair. I hope you don't mind me speaking on this. It's a non-pecuniary interest. So I just wanted to thank Colin Ball for his comments. I know that he welcomes this, but I want to assure him that this was on the agenda for our side. I know the leader, the deputy leader and myself have been talking about this for a long time. I welcome this as well. I think it's fantastic. And it's also a good example. We talked earlier about LWMTS. It's a good example about how we can do some really good things in really clever ways with that company to ensure we get the best for our residents. And I'd also like to remind all our members there's a workshop next Wednesday at 6 o'clock here, talking about supporting homelessness and social registered housing applicants. So I'd encourage everybody to come and join that if you can do. Thank you.
And Councillor Strachan.
Thank you, Chair. It was to thank Councillor Ball for his support mainly, but to note that he and his friends don't have the monopoly on heart in this council. This is the continuation of a policy begun actually under former councillor Ashley Yates, with my support when he began using right to buy receipts, which are windfall incomes. I know, Councillor Robertson, who it could be said, using right to buy receipts to secure temporary accommodation units, and this is simply an expansion of that. I'm delighted to hear support from the Labour benches, but this did begin some time before things were as close as they are now.
Right, okay, so we're all in favour of it so far. Shall we vote in favour or against? Sorry, Councillor, you were going to oppose it? No. Okay, all those in favour of this. Is anyone against it? Are there any abstentions? Okay, lovely. Then we'll move on to agenda item number 15, which is the 2050 strategy, when I'm going to be very old but confident, green and active, etc., with its associated immediate and longer term plans. Call on Councillor Pullen.
Thank you, Chair. It brings me great joy to be able to bring this paper to full council. And I move the recommendations that are set out in this report. It brings me lots of joy, mainly because it feels like we've talked about this strategy for a number of years, at least 2, I think. And in some ways, I think that's testament to the level of consultation and engagement that we've done on this strategy, not just within this chamber, but also with our residents as well, so that it genuinely feels like a strategy that is owned by the district and not just the district council. We have historically always run 4-year strategies as a council, which I think has given us an inability to look further forward to the long term, whilst also not really giving us the accountability to our residents on the short term. I just think what this will do is, by setting out those clear levels of long-term aspiration, give us all something that we can pull together towards, whilst also the fact that it's underpinned by 1-year delivery plans, which in turn will be underpinned by quarterly, I think we're calling them sprints, but they sound like medium jogs to me, over the quarters of the year. In ensuring that we're actually able to demonstrate to residents that we're making progress throughout the years, that it's not just a plan that we expect to magically appear in 25 years' time. We will be able to clearly articulate to our residents why we do what we do, and we'll be able to also demonstrate the progress that we're making against those long-term aspirations on a regular basis. I look forward to being able to bring that annual delivery plan back to OBB and Scrutiny and also to this chamber. And I really do hope that this plan is something that all of us can pull together behind and ensure, most importantly, that our residents and businesses of this district can pull behind as well. And we are certainly not the sole arbiters of this district strategy for the coming 25 years. Thank you, Chair. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. Is there someone to second? Oh, Councillor Woodward, are you seconding it?
Chair, thank you. I'm happy to second that proposal. I don't know whether others were preparing to do so, but I'm sure they will speak in the debate. there have been numerous iterations of this strategy and numerous iterations for councillors. We've had various opportunities to make our views known, and there have been quite significant amendments both to timescales and some of the substantive items. I'm particularly keen to see the delivery plans, which has been agreed will come to overview and scrutiny committee on a regular basis, and I think that's where we'll get into the nitty-gritty of actual delivery. But it's very ambitious. It's not perfect. It's very ambitious, and there isn't a single person in this chamber who's not ambitious for our district and for the residents of this district. So I'm happy to second the proposal. Thanks, Chair.
And I think I saw Councillor Evans and then Councillor Cox, Councillor Wilcox and Councillor Smith. What do I remember that then? Oh, right.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask a question on 3.4, because I'm sure that the wording should be to live, work and play, not pay. That's my mistake.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think we'll proofread it before it goes. Then I'm not sure who was next. Was it Councillor Wilcox next? No, Councillor Cox, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know quite how to follow Councillor Evans there. Perhaps it should be pay. But no, I agree. I welcome this. I mean, in terms of my term on this council, which is 21 years now, which this is ambitious. I've not seen anything previously like it. We always stuck with a 4-year strategy plan, and did that, serve the district well? I don't say I'm sure it did, but this is ambitious, and I think the key for anybody listening and to know that it isn't a fixed document. I think it has to be recognised that it has to be fluid. It has to go with the times, because we all know things happen that are beyond anybody's control, and we will have to react to that accordingly. But I do welcome it, because it does share and confirm, with what Councillor Woodward said. We are ambitious in this council, and I think this is an ambitious piece of work that we are hopefully will support tonight. I certainly do. I'm excited by it, and I just recognise that a lot of hard work has gone into it from officers and members, and I'm happy to support the motion.
Thank you. Now, I think there was Councillor John Smith and Councillor Sylvester Hall. Have I missed somebody? Sorry, I thought you were right. So, Councillor Smith.
This which I can't agree with. My only worry is that given our record on sticking to plans, we will not complete by 2050. Unfortunately, I'm also aware that I'm not likely to be around to see that date anyway. The only query I have on the plan is on page 59. Item, the 4th point down says we will complete the city centre regeneration of Lichfield on the Birmingham Road site. There's no way we're going to complete that by 2028. We might have got all the plans in place, but the building won't be complete because we're not going to start until 2025. And there's no way we could build all of that site within 3 years, even if we had the plans before us now for the entire site, when in fact we've only got the plans for a little corner of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sylvester Hall.
Yep, it's on there. I too intended to try and second it, so well done to Councillor Woodward there for jumping in, very quick off the mark. It is an absolute pleasure to be able to endorse it and to give it support, and especially hopefully in the delivery of making sure that this comes to fruition now. Not to labour the point with regards to the ambition that's included in there, but the fact that we are thinking about what we want this district to look like, to feel like come 2050. And we've already seen this evening the extent to which it covers, and we've already had some conversations about some of those aspects here. So we can see the extent and the breadth to which it covers those, and also, therefore, to the extensive work that's been undertaken. The fact that we've had opportunity to contribute it, as well as being a councillor as a resident within the area, but also then to reflect the work that's gone into the offices. And I would also like to pay testament to that tonight as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilcox, Mike Wilcox.
Thank you, Chair. And with the permission of the Leader of the Council, I'd like to just speak on a couple of items within my portfolio, whilst I'm still a member of this Cabinet. So on the green communities, it really is important we make a real good start on this. When we look at our biggest area of carbon footprint, biggest area is the depot, without doubt. And we've got to start making inroads into how we reduce that. And the introduction of HVO, while it's a sticking plaster, it will in some way reduce our carbon footprint immediately by about 40 or 50%. So that's important that I bring that paper to Cabinet to look at the implications of that. Of course, with anything that you do on the green agenda, it comes at a cost. Everything that you do has a cost related to it. So I'll make sure that that's looked at in proper detail and brought to Cabinet. I'm really also delighted that I've had support from all members of this council on all sides, political divides, in relation to what we're doing in relation to the green agenda. And certainly on Thursday night, you'll hear some really exciting news about the new habitat havens that are going to be created in our district, which is our start to address that situation. And it's something that we need to build on going further. The only comment I will make in relation to anything that you've heard that may well have come through from DEFRA through the DCN, the recycling regime we have at the moment works well for this district, and we want to continue in that vein. So I'm glad that DEFRA have given the authority for local authorities to do and run the best service that suits their residents. So I do believe the service we have at the moment is a good service. A little bit of tweaking occasionally with the way in which we collect the rubbish and the speed at which we do it and the speed in which the operators race around the district, but they're passionate, they do a grand job on the whole, but I'm really excited about the fact that we can move forward now within the green communities and start to make this district much greener for all of us and for our future generations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Does anybody else want? Right, Councillor Ennis, then Councillor Robertson.
I think I can use this one. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm also supportive of this. And there's a couple of points specifically I like about this ban. The first one is we can sit in, we can look at it and we can talk and we can all say how brilliant this is and how ambitious it is, but it also sends a message out to our residents and it gives them a document to hold us to account. And I think that's really important because sometimes people don't quite understand what councils do and what councils are for. And if we can point them towards a document that tells them about where we're targeting, what we want from this district, I think that is an absolute positive thing. So massively supportive of that. Just got to hope we keep to the timeframes on this. And I mentioned timeframes for one very simple reason. I love the fact in prosperous communities, the number one thing on there is a Burntwood master plan. It's a long time coming. It's going to start in this quarter now. Hopefully I'll see something, as he says, specifically engage with stakeholders. So I can imagine tomorrow morning there'll be an email from this council, the Burntwood Town Council, engaging with them about the master plan. I know that's probably already on its way today. So I'm massively supportive about it. I live in hope. I'm massively supportive of it, and I'd just like to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Chair. I think one of the strengths of this document is it talks about engaging with partners, and I think in demonstration of that, I think Councillor Wilcox's point about the habitat havens, it's really good to see actually the District Council taking the, following the lead of Lichfield City Council, which has introduced areas of wildflower planting and no more areas for a couple of years now. Shameless plug for myself there. I should probably declare an interest as the leader of that council. The main reason I actually rise to speak though is on page 10 of the delivery plan, page 78 of the document pack. You can see there are some points which are highlighted, and there's a variety throughout, but I think these are some of the ones where we can actually really demonstrate how hard officers have worked even after this came to overview and scrutiny. And I would like to thank our officers for looking into that, and particularly the Chief Operating Officer. I'll give a shout to Kerry at the back of the room, because actually a lot of those changes are really positive. So if we're talking about prosperous communities, we do want want to make sure that actually average earnings are going up. And if we do want to talk about educational attainment, we do want to make sure we're measuring that across key stages. And I think these are some of the changes that you can make to a document like this, which strengthen it, which allow us to really focus on the areas where we want to be able to drive progress everywhere across our district. And on that basis, I think it's one that I'd certainly commend to this council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think then we can move to a vote. All those in favour of this report. So, is anyone against? No, that's unanimously agreed then. That's great. Okay, we move on to agenda item 16, but there are no questions to anybody. People have failed to hold, yeah, so you'll have to do better next time. So I can move on now to item 17, which is the exclusion of the public and the press. We now come to a confidential item of business, which requires me to read out the following: that as publicity would be prejudicial to the public interest. You've got to listen to me while I... Publicity would be prejudicial to the public interest by reason of the confidential nature of the business to be transacted. The press and public be excluded from the meeting for the following item of business, which would involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972.